everyone. This is Shelby from this podcast, one of the hosts. I wanted to give a quick update before you listen to the rest of the podcast because some things have changed since the last time we recorded this, and we want to make sure our information is correct when it goes out. First of all, there was a comment in the podcast that I talked about what was found in George Floyd's autopsy. Another examiner came out and said that he happened to actually die of asphyxiation, while in the podcast I said another examiner found that he wasn't. But it has changed. That did play a big part in his death. So there's that. A second thing is that Bliss had mentioned that in the conspiracy under Jeffrey Epstein was it was Prince. She said Prince Harry, I believe, in the podcast. It was actually Prince Andrew. Yeah. So when you hear her say Prince Harry, or me if I said it, it was actually Prince Andrew. And the last thing was the 4 cops that were involved in George Floyd's death. In the podcast I said all 4 were fired, and the main cop who had his knee on his neck was charged with murder. However, that has changed. All 4 have been charged with second-degree murder, I believe. So those are the updates that we have now, because we recorded it on June 1st. It is like
June 8th now?
June 9th today. So those are the updates that we've had before, and we wanted to update you guys before we got the podcast out. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. Thank you for listening. I should turn my phone off, because I know it's going to go off because of who.
Your secret admirer.
Not even that.
We don't know. It could be your secret admirer, Shelby. Who knows?
That's not. That would be fucked.
Well, lots of things are fucked.
Yeah.
Like the things we're going to talk about in today's podcast. Hey, everybody.
Transition.
Welcome back to this podcast. I'm Bliss.
And I'm Shelby.
And today we're going to be talking about all of the recent events in the world on a little bit more of a serious note. I know it's not just coronavirus at this point. There's stuff going on globally now for different reasons, like Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, the riots, Jeffrey Epstein stuff, etc. We're going to be addressing lots of things that are going on right now. Just a little bit of a disclaimer, though. We are not going to be stating our personal political beliefs on everything. We may state a few things that we believe are not contributing to the cause, but we're going to try to stay pretty neutral, so if you were looking for a particular side on this is not the place. However, don't prejudge. Just hear the whole thing. Just wait. That's all I gotta say.
Are we going to stick with the title? I like the title.
What was
You
that?
have what is going on in the world, truth and conspiracies.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like that. I didn't. Wow! I was half asleep when I wrote that, so I'm like, yes! Yes!
Oh, jeez.
Why are we doing that at the same time?
We always do that.
I know.
Okay. Alright, so this podcast is called What is Going On in the World, Truth and Conspiracies. Because there is a lot of conspiracies going on around this whole thing. But of course, what is the icing on the cake for this whole thing going on? The case with George Floyd.
Yes.
I'm going to be honest. When I first heard about it, I didn't take it seriously. And that sounds bad. But, you hear these things, and sometimes they're very minimal at first, and you're like, oh, okay, it's unfortunate, it happened, but that's pretty much how you gotta take it. But then it blew up. And it became this huge thing, and all of a sudden I knew people were rioting. And I was like, okay, now this is like Ferguson, Missouri all over again.
Yes, yeah.
And I was like, we saw how that happened, so this should be interesting how this turns out. And we still don't know. But there's conspiracies of how it's going to end, which we'll get to here in a little bit.
Yep.
But first, for those of you who might have not heard of the George Floyd issue, if you're living literally under a rock.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, literally.
So, what happened with George Floyd, supposedly, in a small store, I think it was like the Cup Shop, a employee had called and said that they had customers with fake $20 bills and trying to use them. So the employee called to let them know, and George Floyd was one of the people who was using fake $20 bills, supposedly. And this happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it was like May 25th, I think is the day that happened. Soon after, the police did show up, which was 2 police officers. And they did I read that they pulled a gun out on Floyd. I didn't see this part in the video, but they pulled a gun out on Floyd, who was in a car that was by the store. And they were telling him to get out of the car, and then the police proceeded to take him out of the car, because Floyd, I guess, wasn't stepping out of the car at the moment. And Mr. Floyd, began to resist, and that started like the first little dispute. But eventually, they got him out and got him in handcuffs. Now, once the police officers got the handcuffs on him, he was fine, but when they tried to put him in the back of the police vehicle, he started to explain that he was claustrophobic and he couldn't go in the car. I'm just going to stop there and say, I've never been in the back of a police car, so, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably smaller, and I know there's that plastic piece that divides the front and the back. If you can get in your own car, why can't you get into a cop car? You know what I mean? I could be wrong, but that was my first thought when I read the story. But, again, I don't experience claustrophobia, so I don't fully know. It could be different. So, around that same time that he was like, I can't go in there, I'm claustrophobic, I can't go in, 2 other police officers show up. And it started, I don't remember in the story of how, but they started to kind of, I think it was the fact that they were trying to push him in there to get him in the car, and he was fighting back with it. And so eventually he ended up on the ground in a restraint where Officer, I can't pronounce his last name, Siobhan?
I think so, yeah. That's how I've heard it.
Yes. Okay, so Officer Siobhan, when they got him on the ground, placed his left knee on his neck between his shoulders and his head. Here's where it gets fishy, is when Officer Siobhan keeps his leg on his neck for a whopping 9 minutes.
After he says he can't breathe and stuff.
And as Mr. Floyd was saying, I can't breathe, he continued to do it. Also, 6 minutes into that, before the 9 minutes were even up, they could tell that Mr. Floyd was not responsive. And they told another officer to check his pulse. And they heard the officer who checks his pulse on his wrist said he has no pulse. But yet another 3 minutes went by. And they continued to do that restraint. So you can obviously see the wrong in that story. And it's very unnerving to hear about. And very unfortunate. But it was really contradicting, because they said in the report that when they talked to the owner of the cup shop, that George Floyd the owner said that he was a regular, he was a good customer, but the employee who was working that day claimed that he appeared to be drunk and not himself. So it's kind of like a contradicting thing, like, oh no, this guy is perfect, and he's a good customer. I shouldn't say perfect, no one is, but he's a good customer, he's fine usually, but then this employee's saying, well, no, he's drunk, or something's wrong with him. Now, after the video went viral on the internet and it became very publicized, all 4 cops were all 4 cops were fired, and Siobhan, who had his knee on Floyd's neck, was charged with murder. I think recently, from when we're recording this podcast now, it might change by the time we get it out, it was put down from 1st degree to 2nd degree. And that's where it is now. You would think it would stop there.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. We have gone down deep the hole, and just like in Ferguson, and just like the Trayvon Martin case, Riots and everything has started.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worse than before.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's gotten a lot worse than it did in other cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because people are finally sick and tired of it, which is understandable. But
Yes.
they are going about it the wrong way. That is an opinion I will put out there. They are going about it the wrong way.
You always need to start peacefully before, and I know people are saying they did start peacefully and that's why it got violent, but I didn't even know protests were happening until they had gotten violent.
Mm-hmm.
So
I didn't hear about the protests till the 28th, which was 3 days after the whole incident happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it started. I couldn't figure out when it started, but all I could find was articles on the 28th about it happening. So either I just found it at the time that everyone else was really finding out about it, or it was happening before the 28th. But it just got to the tipping point on that day.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know, media is tricky.
It is.
So, and they release it how they please.
Yeah. So, coming back from that, another thing was released recently about the autopsy of George Floyd. Now, I will say what was found, and there has been a lot of people who are obviously saying, well, it doesn't matter, it's still wrong what happened to him. I agree, but it is important to know the facts as well. According to the examiner, he actually did not die of asphyxiation and strangling from the knee. Supposedly, from this examiner, it said that he was intoxicated with an intoxicant, but it was never said to what. So we don't know if it was alcohol, we don't know if it was simply just marijuana, or we don't know if it was any of the harder drugs. And I've seen videos out there saying, and it has to be assuming that it was just marijuana. You know, it easily could have been, because, I mean, he was functioning, he was walking around talking, but it was never officially said what intoxicant it was. So we can only assume that he was intoxicated with something. Still doesn't make the situation right, but we also know that he had health conditions. He had a weak heart, or he had some kind of heart condition, and those are what actually, it was like the intoxication and then his heart led to his death, but the part on his knee probably didn't help the situation. So again, I'm not saying therefore
it all ties in together.
Yeah, it all ties in together, and therefore, like, just because it was found in his body doesn't mean that what happened wasn't wrong. It obviously was wrong, otherwise, you know, not so many people would be standing up against it right now. So so yeah, this kind of situation, which I think I mentioned earlier, brought back the Black Lives movement. Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes.
And obviously, the Black Lives Matter movement started back in 2012 is when it started with the Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman case.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is basically a deep commitment to validating the lives of African Americans. That's what that movement is, and more people after each one of these cases come up are joining it, and it's completely understandable.
Yes.
I forgot where I was going. I think the Black Lives Matter movement are genuinely good, and you know, those people who are simply protesting peacefully are getting not involved, but they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, because then there's the other people who are taking it to a whole nother level.
Yes, like I saw, just to reference real fast, a tweet. If you are one of those white people that is out with the protesters saying that you're rioting for the cause of Black Lives Matter, but you're really just doing stupid shit just to do stupid shit, you're a part of the problem and not a part of, like, you know, being proactive. Which I think is very true, because I think a lot of people, like celebrities that I will not name, but some of them are YouTubers, etc., that are going out and participating in these activities just for the hell of it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw these two girls that were conspiring about which outfits they wanted to wear. They were picking out their riot outfits.
Why does that matter?
Exactly.
That's when you know that you just explain it. You just want it as a game.
Yeah.
That's all it is to you, is a game and a reason for you to go against the laws.
And you guys are the people that are making all the other protesters look bad, and you're making it worse. Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of stuff. Okay, we're going to have to plug it. Okay, testing 1, 2. We had to move locations. I sound like this.
4, 5, 6 titties. I sound like this.
Okay, so our audio might not match up that well because we had to move locations because my computer likes to die really fast, and I neglected to charge it properly. Anywho.
It's alright.
Where did we leave off? We left off at the Black Lives Matter movement. You were saying how people, like, generally, the Black Lives Matter movement is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's making awareness, it's bringing out the light. However, there are some who are taking it to an extreme that are making it actually worse than what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is kind of dividing us as a society in a way, because, and not necessarily just the Black Lives Matter movement, but just the whole situation in general, because it also pulls in a lot of other things like politics. And so I feel like more or less this is all dividing everything.
Yeah.
For sure. And I can't help but to actually talk about this a little bit. Someone who I know posted or reposted a thing on Facebook. And it said, "If you don't support the Black Lives Matter movement, then we are not friends." And I mean that in the most disrespectful way possible. To me, when you post something like that, you're being a hypocrite. Here you are supporting a giant movement, and I know you mean well, but when you say that someone who isn't supporting the same thing, and you're going to be disrespectful towards them, you're basically doing the thing that you're trying to fight against.
Because how are you going to get respect back if you're not giving it?
Exactly.
And that goes for both sides, too.
Yeah. Like, I understand it's frustrating, and, we all want peace and harmony, and we want things to be able to go smoothly and not have this hate that is filled right now. But the fact is, you're not helping the situation if you're doing that. And when I saw that,
fight the fire with fire.
Yeah, when I saw that, I couldn't help but I got so mad. It was so frustrating. But yeah, other than that I just had to put in there. When it comes to, you already talked about your Twitter, the Minnesota tweets? No. Okay, so now Bliss, she's more active on Twitter than I am. I'm not at all. The only time I ever get on there is when Bliss sends me something. That's
fair enough.
Yeah. So she had some things that she found that she wanted to comment on.
So Minneapolis, or Minnesota, that's where the George Floyd stuff, took place. So of course the riots are like really, really hard there. And I believe that is where they burned down the police precinct, if I'm not wrong. Okay.
Plus like half of the city.
Yeah. So I just wanted to address all of that because, okay, here is, I think I saw somewhere somebody said that George Floyd made a video in 2016 or something, the last time there was a Black Lives Matter movement going on, and he was talking about how the riots weren't doing anything because they were adding to the problem, and then people started rioting in his name when he wouldn't have wanted that. Now, is that the core issue of everything going on? No, but it is good to address that it's not helping either.
Yeah, and I'm going to straight up put it out there that if you are vandalizing, committing crimes during this, and you have the guts to say, this is for George Floyd, no. That's straight up no. This is for you. That is not for George Floyd. You're taking it beyond that point. So you can take those words and shove it back in your mouth, because
Yeah.
that's the no go.
You're one of those people that's abusing the situation.
You are abusing the situation. And you're using the situation with George Floyd itself as a stepping stone to do things that you've wanted to do as an excuse. Come at me.
Yeah.
You can if you want. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be 100%. That's one thing I am very strongly on, is the fact when someone's like, oh, I am hurting this little business that supports a whole family in George Floyd's name. No, you're not. You're just being it. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the rioting is a problem. Let's see here. I'm gonna edit this part out.
Some of the Black Lives Matter movement started out as rioting, but soon turned into vandalism.
Yeah. So, the whole rioting, like, you can stand there with pickets and, you know, be very verbal, like a verbal riot, and stuff like that. And I think it started out as that, but it quickly turned into vandalism. We've been lucky here, and all we've had here is peaceful protest. But you go an hour in any direction, things are being burned down. And it's absolutely crazy to me that is happening. I've even seen, you know, people, you know, protesting and kneeling down on one knee in places like Italy and England. And I'm like, geez.
Berlin.
Yeah.
All these places, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy how global this is becoming. Did you have screenshots of our state?
There's some protests going on in our state. They're not anything too crazy, but I did have a picture of something I wanted to pull up and discuss real fast. Let me see which one is it. I think it's this one. Yeah. A video of the crowd leading a white supremacist with a gun out of the protest.
See, yeah, no. That's taken a whole new level.
Yeah, so those are the people that are too far on the other side that are not, they're failing to see where things went wrong with the George Floyd situation, and they're failing to see the Black Lives Matter movement. If you're, okay, here's the thing, I don't support white supremacists either, like, I don't think it really fucking matters what color you are. You could be goddamn rainbow. For all I give a shit. You know what I mean? Just be a good person.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like our country's kind of forgetting that.
Yeah.
And it's very scary. It's a very scary time right now. And after rereading this, I wanted to talk about the difference between riot and rebellion. Because there is a huge thing right now saying, this is not a riot, this is a rebellion. My comment on that is, it's actually both. Because it's very close to the same thing. The difference between a riot and a rebellion is the fact that a rebellion is not just against a small society and against certain people and certain businesses, it's against the whole government. And with those people who are taking it farther out than it should, that's what's causing the rebellion. And to those who are saying, this is not a riot, this is a rebellion, as in, if it's a good thing, no. Because I think I saw it on Facebook, someone shared it, and was talking about it as if it was a good thing that it was a rebellion and not a riot. And I was like, do you not know what a rebellion is?
Yeah.
It's not any better. You're still doing crime. And you're going against everything. Like, it's very frustrating. So, whenever someone says, is it a riot or is it a rebellion? Right now, it's both. It's just straight up both at this point. And neither of them is good. It shouldn't be happening in the first place. But, that's just how it is right now. Now, with this kind of stuff, there's always something, or conspiracies that come out of these. And I love them. Because it just sparks tons of debates.
Yes.
And Bliss is getting excited because she loves conspiracies.
I do, so much.
So, this one isn't really conspiracy. This was something that can actually easily happen if we continue on the path that we're on. Another civil war. I've heard so many times that we are on the path of civil war, and I can 100% see that.
Me too, especially from a lot of the things I've seen from people posting on Twitter. People are fucking fed up with the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in any direction, anywhere you turn, people are fed up with the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So, you know, that's terrifying.
yeah.
And that's something that I feel like it's not a small situation what happened with George Floyd. It's a big issue, but it's been blown up so much that it's become dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the result of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, for y'all who are going out there vandalizing and rioting, acting like this is how it has to be done, just realize what you're asking for. Because, as of now, they've enlisted the National Guard.
Mm-hmm. No,
If you go after the National Guard, you're asking for bloodshed.
I saw...
And you know you're not going to win. It's just the truth.
National Guard, hang on.
Because they are, if you go after the National Guard, they have every right to go back and use lethal force against you.
They released a map of where all the National Guard is at in the United States, because it's in most of the states, I believe. Anywhere where there were any kind of riots or protests, now the National Guard is there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean...
Which I know the state of Missouri...
California...
Yeah.
Minneapolis, or Minnesota. But Minneapolis is where it's really bad there.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much else in Minnesota. And then numerous other states. It was all over the country, but I can't find a picture of it.
I mean, I've also heard of places, like, hurting national monuments. Like, you know, I've heard of places, I don't remember what it was. I know at one point I heard about the St. Louis Arch being caught on fire for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it was true. I don't know if it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it very briefly. I couldn't find anything on it, so I don't think it's any. But if it is happening and national monuments are being, like, defaced and everything, that's wrong. That's something that, you're taking what happened out of proportion, and you're trying to make it bigger than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, you heard about, they were lighting houses and things on fire all around the White House.
Mm-hmm. Here's my thing about that. I'm gonna kind of go back to what we were talking about, the whole rioting situation. When you go out and you are throwing rocks and setting houses and businesses on fire, you're, like we've said it, you're making things worse. You're making things worse to the point that you are hurting families' income, business income, people's jobs.
And you don't even know whether these people are
Part
with
of
you
it.
or against you.
Yeah.
You have no idea. You're
Those
doing
people
it
could just be at
any
home
idea.
chilling in their living room because they're scared to go outside because of what's going on down the street.
And
they're looking at the news and being like, there goes my money.
And there's plenty of people who are supporting this movement but are too afraid to go outside because of all of the violence. Yeah. And I mean, I think that you can be all for the movement all you want without...
Again, just go on a sidewalk. Get your megaphone out.
Get
your sign and chant and have people honk if they support it. You're still getting the word out there. It's still going to be televised. Especially if you get a giant group around. Like, what is vandalizing doing?
Yeah.
That's just for your pleasure. That's all that is.
Well, and I know a lot of people's arguments is they want to believe that the cops started first, and I'm sure there may be some instances where that has been the case, but that's not the case every single time either. And it's one extreme or the other, and that's something that I think a lot of people are failing to realize is, yes, Black Lives Matter is important. Yes, George Floyd is important. Yes, stand up for your cause, but also do it in the right way where you're going to be heard, because if you, think about it from your perspective. Say somebody was trying to get you to believe something, and the way they did that was by setting a bunch of your fucking shit on fire. All you're gonna do is get pissed off and want to set their shit on fire.
Yeah.
You're not gonna want to listen to what they have to say. That's not gonna get your attention and make them want to listen, make you want to listen to their point.
Yeah.
So, therefore, on the flip side, it's not gonna work either. Even on a large scale.
Yeah.
And I get that people are trying to have an upheaval and kind of have the people rule the system, but if we do that, then there are no rules and there are no guidelines and there are no nothing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, all of these people who are in power are kind of corrupt. So then it's like
It's a constant unbalance.
Yeah.
It really is. And, you know, the whole thing with people saying, well, we just need to get rid of cops. You know how screwed we would be if we got rid of cops? I do think that there are a lot of cops out there that, you know, probably aren't the best for that position. I do think there needs to be some new way of, you know, kind of
mentally screening them.
Yeah. Like, do it when they first get hired and do it, like, once a year. Because they go through a lot on that job. And so their mentality is going to change within every year.
And just because they're mentally sound when they start out as a police officer doesn't mean that what they've seen since then hasn't scarred them in ways that is not repairable, and then therefore they act in certain ways because of that. Which is, again, not an excuse. I'm not making excuses for people or just stating.
And I get the whole, you know, how it's frustrating when people hear, it's not all cops. Well, the fact is, it's not. So, you can't, you know how scary it is for those cops who are out there trying to actually do their job and protect you and the community? How scary it is for them to step out there in front of all y'all?
Those cops that, like,
because they don't know what you're going to do. You're flipping the switch on them. So, you're going to be like, well, that's what they get for making us feel this way. Well, you don't like how it feels, so how is it right for you to do it to them?
Fighting fire with fire, that's what I'm saying,
So, I mean, I see, you know, those few posts that are, like, the men that linked arms around that cop who was being surrounded by rioters and protecting him. And I'm like, thank God, at least some of them understand, you know? But
I don't think anyone should die over this, and that's the point.
And
yes,
you know how many
George
people
Floyd
have?
matters. Yes, Black Lives Matter. But I don't think that we should be going out and then killing cops and people of power either.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yes, we need our justice, but we can do it in a different way.
Yeah. And those who are rioting, like, on the highways and blocking off a whole highway, that's too much. That is too much. And also, you're not only hurting those people right then and there, you're hurting our freaking economy. Like, half of those people are truckers, and that's how we get everything.
That's true, yeah.
Like, we get everything from them.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing a case where there was rioters on the highway or on a road blocking the road. I don't remember if it was a highway or a road. And this guy had to run over one of the rioters, or one of two, because they were banging on his car and his window when he was just trying to get somewhere. And so he was scared for his life. And so he had to push through them, and he had to run over a couple of them. They're not, last I heard, they're not charging him with murder. Or, you know, violence or whatever it is that...
Well, because it is a law that if people are blocking you and they don't have a permit and all of that, it is okay for you to plow through.
Yeah.
It is literally a law. You can look it up.
Yeah.
So, I did research that because I was curious. And I was like, is that a law? Like, I might want to look into that.
Yeah, but it's just, you know, it's unfortunate because, again, that added fuel to the fire. Because now those writers are like, see, people don't care. And I'm like, you're the one blocking our way. And, like, what does blocking a highway have to do with this situation at hand? Nothing. You're doing nothing but being an idiot and being ignorant.
Well, and here's the thing. You really think President Trump and everybody are fucking paying that much attention to that? I mean, they are, but they aren't. Trump's got his own set of shit going on that he's getting accused for right now that he's fucking hiding from.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We will get to that here in just a little bit. Because that, you know, the whole point of this podcast is to talk about things that are going on right now. Because it's what's on our mind. Because we couldn't think of what to do for this week. And we're kind of short on time of when we can do it because Bliss is going back to her work.
Yep, tomorrow.
Yeah. So we're struggling, like, what day we were going to do it, and we decided today, and we had no idea what we wanted to talk about because all of this was on our mind. This is all we could think about. So, yeah, we'll get more into that whole issue here in a little bit. But to kind of continue on with, like, the conspiracy part of what is going on with the whole George Floyd situation, all the rioting, a lot of them are saying the Civil War, which I talked about already. and then they're saying purge.
Yeah,
and I'm like, whoosh, I need to go to gun rage then.
We saw a funny TikTok about.
Yes, we did. Which we can go ahead and talk about it if you want.
Okay.
There's this TikTok, and I wrote it down. Who was it by? It was by Trixel Vibes, at Trixel Vibes. I don't know. It's TRXLLVIBES. If you look her up, she's funny. In her video, it's her. No, it's a future her jumping into the screen, and it's in a little caption thing. It said, "What year is it?" And then it flips to her in like a different sweater, and it's her today. It said 2020. Why? And then it goes back to the future her, and it says quarantine or apocalypse. And then the dun 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 music turns on, and she's looking around like, what? And that, it just was funny. It was funny initially, but then you thought about it like, holy crap. It's possible.
Yeah. Well, the way that things are going, and it's not to say that I don't think we need change in this country. I mean, I do think that there is racism, and yes, I do think racism exists, and yes, I don't think we should have racism. However, I just don't know if lighting shit on fire is really doing anything for the cause of racism. No. Because I just would like to point out, I saw something that said Martin Luther King Jr. got everything done that he needed to get done, that he wanted to get done, doing peaceful protests. And everybody who says they're not getting the point across with these peaceful protests, they're not getting the point across.
That's a lie. Because right now you have, back then they didn't have social media.
Yeah.
Now we do. And that makes it even easier.
Yep, it's even easier to get word around peacefully, calmly.
Petitions. It's everything.
And you can get the word around all you want. I'm sorry to say, if there are people who don't want to receive it, if they're extremely Republican and they don't want to receive it, they're not going to receive it. And just like they're not going to convince you that you're wrong either. And it's one of those things that I think people have a hard time accepting. Does that mean that either are right? I mean, no, that's not it either. It's just you're entitled to your beliefs.
Right.
Whether they're morally
right or wrong. The fact is, you're never
wrong.
going to get everyone on your side. It's not possible.
Exactly.
Especially if you're on an extreme side. I'm going to say that right now. I'm not going to talk about deep political things. But if you are very... I just... The way this country works, if you are on a very, one-sided, narrow-minded individual and only see, a certain way with only a certain group of people, you're never going to get the whole world on your side. Ever. It's never going to happen. Not even the whole country. Anyways,
Excuse me.
Nice. So, Bliss will probably get more into this one, but this is the big one that's going on right now, is the fact that how extreme this is becoming it's a political stunt, which is icing on the cake, because everything, it seems like now, is a political stunt since it's 2020. And the election's coming up. So, if you want to dive right into there.
The Jeffrey Epstein cases.
Yeah, or Antifa, whichever one you want to go in first. I mean, I will say that a lot of people are, and Donald Trump tweeted recently that Antifa is being listed as a terrorist group because it has been, what's the word? Thought that Antifa is doing some of the vandalism. Yes,
they're thought to be people that are making the people who are protesting for a good cause, the black protesters, everybody who is doing it in the right way, they're going out and making them look bad and kind of starting and initializing the vandalism to get it going.
Because Antifa, if you don't know what Antifa is, it is another movement, but it's, I don't want to say governed, that's the wrong word. It's led by extreme leftists and anti-fascists. Is that how you say the word?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And they're pretty much all anti-government. And so at this point they're using this supposedly as, again, a stepping stone to rebelling against the government. And they think with people's ears and eyes open to what is going on, that this is their chance to kind of rebel against the government. And that's what's creating the whole rebellion thing, because they're thinking people are more willing to accept that and go against the government.
And see that people in power can be corrupt instead of just believing that since they're in power that they're a good person.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Which power corrupts people in itself, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole different day.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the whole Antifa thing. That's all I really know about it.
I just heard more about the parts where they're talking about certain people that they believe to be involved with Antifa and stuff, but it's all conspiracy, and I don't want to throw names out there without stuff like that being confirmed, just because that's something very intense.
Yeah, again, with this conspiracy stuff, we're not saying facts here.
Yeah.
At all. These are just all the conspiracies and, like, things that we've heard online and things that are going around.
Yep. Yes. So, these are just collective, from online and news and whatever.
Yeah.
So, another conspiracy going on right now is the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and I know everybody's heard of that, and that doesn't really have a lot to do with the Black Lives Matter movement, but I did think it was a little odd that the documentary on him was released around the time all of this stuff was going on. I just feel like as though it was a nice distraction to get people... But
it also lifted a whole other problem.
It did. It lifted light to other issues that are going on that aren't racism issues. It's sex trafficking and pedophilia issues, which are way more of a problem than people realize as well. You know, I know people like to believe racism doesn't exist, and I'm sorry to tell you that it does. And people also like to believe that sex trafficking is fucking just stuff that foreign people come into our country and do. That is also misled.
I literally had a massage parlor down the street from my house get busted for people being bought out in China, brought back here to give quote-unquote massages. Yeah, so that's not right.
It's people, all these quote-unquote white supremacist leaders that people, as people say, they are generally the ones involved in all of this. And the reason why that is it is a good generating money scheme, which that's horrible, but
it does bring in a lot of money.
Yes, and they're all also apparently very perverted, and they just enjoy taking advantage of underage girls because they can get away with it. It's a powerful thing. It's a power trip.
Yeah. Now, for those who haven't seen the Jeffrey Epstein documentary, you might want to go in more detail about what it is, because like I know what it is because I I watched the first episode, but I haven't been able to get all the way through.
Watch all of it.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people do know about it, but I know there's some people probably out there that are not.
Okay, so for the Jeffrey Epstein case, so he was a powerful man. He, which is weird because he was powerful without having
a business. He was powerful without having a degree. He dropped out of college. He never finished. Everyone wondered how he was why he was so rich.
Well, what's funny is his first job right after college was being a teacher. He was a teacher without a degree. He faked his, resume and his experiences and all that shit, and the school never noticed and they never tracked him. So when he went to his next job, he was having some complications, and they were like, yo, what's up with this? And he was like, oh, well, it's because I didn't want to get caught at my last job for faking my resume, because I don't have any school experience. And that's where...
So it makes you think if he was just in the job to be with the teenage girls.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
And then basically what happened was he manipulated his way into different jobs, getting different experiences, and then he started somehow meeting very famous, powerful people. People like Donald Trump and Bill Clinton and Anthony Acosta, I think is his name, and some other people in the political world, and just some celebrities as well that are also... can be involved. But basically Epstein had a history with underage girls. He would hire them as his masseuses, and they would come over to give him a massage for, I don't know, a couple $100 maybe. And they thought that they were just going to give some old man an actual massage for a couple $100. Oh, well, no big deal, right? Well, they show up and the fucking dude gets naked, tells them to get naked, and starts jerking himself off right there in front of them, and then will them. And a lot of the women froze up. Some of them said no. It didn't matter either way. One woman who said that she believed that fighting actually made him enjoy it more. He was that perverted into it all.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of to fast forward a little bit, it led to hundreds and hundreds of girls. Like, it got to a point where he would bring some in, and if they wouldn't have sex with them, if they were too strong-willed not to have sex with him, and like they were able to escape or whatever, he would kind of coerce them into being a recruiter. And then they would then get other girls that they know to come and have sex with him, and they felt special because they weren't having sex with him, but he was still paying them money. So they thought that they were better than the other girls. And that caused them kind of like a complex. And of course this all changed once, Epstein was found out and everybody was exposed. I think the girl that was most thrown under the bus for being a recruiter, I can't remember her name. I want to say it was like Ashley or Katie or some shit. It was some generic name. I'm so sorry about saying that those names were generic. Also, they're very beautiful. But I just know a lot of people with those names.
Come from one with your name.
Yeah. I kind of can say that, to be fair. Anyways, it was just this whole big sex trafficking scheme. Epstein had a house in West Palm Beach where he did it. He had a house up in, in New York, Manhattan. He had one in New Mexico. He had one on an island. He had his own island, and they actually nicknamed it Pedophile Island.
Yep.
And that's where things would really get rough because... And he had cameras everywhere in all of his residences and planes, and he had everything and all the resources, and he would tell those women, I have friends in powerful places, I can get away with anything. So anyways, there is a bunch of information coming out linking Donald Trump to it as well. And what is funny about that is way up before I saw all the stuff on Twitter linking Donald Trump to it that, like, Anonymous has been posting. If you guys don't know what that is, I'll go more into it in just a second. But I said, well, that's so weird that Trump knew Epstein and that he's now denying it all, because it says this in the documentary on Netflix. President fucking Epstein wants to come out with all this information, and then all of a sudden he's hung. And somebody reviewed the autopsy, and they're saying that he wasn't actually hung. The way that it's showing in his body the damage, that it could not have been a self-inflicted hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. But all of the stuff that's linking Trump to it, there's court cases that are coming out about it that cannot be looked up. But Anonymous has said to have been a hacker that is getting in there and like kind of leaking these legal documents that have been like suppressed for so long. But there is so many names on Jeffrey Epstein's little black book that was released. I mean, there's people like Naomi Campbell on there that you wouldn't expect. Ivanka Trump, Bill Clinton, etc.
Now, when you sent me that link to the Twitter that had the link to the book, I hadn't even started the documentary yet. I was literally going to start it that night, which I think was yesterday, when you sent it to me. And, but then I had done other things. Instead, I didn't get back home until like midnight. And I started watching the documentary this morning. And so it started to make a little bit more sense. But what I was reading, because I actually took time to like look through all the names, even though there was a lot. There was a lot. And I couldn't believe half of the names I was reading off of there. And I was like, holy crap. Like, that's insane.
All these people in
and then I started reading the
covering
Twitter
it up.
feed, and I was like, oh my god.
It's just so crazy to see all the people that are conspiring, but that's something to think about. If all of these people are corrupt and they're doing all of this to young women, and they're all pedophiles and they're covering all of that up, what else are they covering up? That's not to say that all this white supremacy that everybody's talking about, it doesn't come right along with it. I mean, who's to say? You know what I mean? That's why it's so powerful that the Jeffrey Epstein stuff is really taking as much of an upheaval as it is right now. The documentary came out when it did because everybody is kind of willing to see shit for what it is now, finally. Yeah. Whereas before I felt like they kiss people in power's asses just for fun.
Now, I mean, we know, this documentary is out right now, but we know eventually it's all going to die down, nothing's going to happen. Because that's just how it is.
Well, Epstein's dead, and there's no way to get any confirmation. I mean,
Yeah.
they have evidence of all those pictures of the girls and stuff,
Yeah.
but he was convicted already.
Mhm.
It's the information he was going to give about everybody else that's tied to it that
And
we
then he
need.
happened to be dead. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're never gonna get it.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, with that, either he did hang himself, and it was because he was scared about what was going to happen to him
Oh, I don't think he was
from
scared.
threats. Maybe not. I mean, like, it just could be a possibility.
He had an escape plan his whole life. He had 2 different escape plans.
Okay. Well,
But
it's fishy either way.
he had no remorse either for the women that he took advantage of when they sat there in that courtroom and testified against him and looked him right in his face and wanted him to remember who they were. You could tell by looking at him he didn't give one fuck.
Those are the scariest people.
Well, you couldn't see a picture of him,
Mhm.
but somebody drew an illustration of him because the court hearing was private.
Uh-huh.
But somebody drew an illustration of him, and you can tell by the expression on his face, he's aloof. He's just nothing.
What would that be? Psychopath?
Yeah,
Okay,
psychopath.
yeah.
It's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Jeez.
But imagine how many of those people there are, because how fucking charming was he? Nobody suspected him because he was really good at putting on the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. The people who are really good at putting on the mask, those are the scariest fucking people.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So, with the Twitter evidence...
I have some as well.
I think one of my favorite ones was one of the first ones Anonymous did after they came back during this whole thing. Because they disappeared after a while.
Yep.
And they came back, and, like, the first one that they tweeted was a tweet responding to Donald Trump's tweet, which was, the United States of America will be designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. Anonymous's response to that was, you had Jeffrey Epstein killed to cover up your history of child trafficking and rape. And we have the receipts here. Like, the fact that they're coming out with all of this is crazy.
I know. Well, and so they're saying, Anonymous is posting, let's see, what did it say? There are several scripts circulating the internet to wane down U.S. public anger and cut support for those in the streets. 1. Claim external forces are responsible. 2. Racial division I saw white people started. 3. Pushing the vote for X instead campaign. The first point, external forces are responsible, is designed to create a feeling of community exceptionalism by building an endo group where the narrative is we are better than this. Our group wouldn't act like this. This is to delegitimize the rebellion against the state. The second point, I saw white people start it, is designed to build a hard racial endo group. Its purpose is to build distrust amongst protesters and coerce black protesters to police property destruction and transfer all guilt to their white counterparts to destroy solidarity. Now, so what they just said, I saw white people start it. They're trying to coerce black protesters. Yes, they are. They are setting out piles of bricks in places on purpose. So that way protesters will use them and throw them on stuff to kind of coerce them. So there are in some areas where I feel like they're kind of feeding into the protesters a little bit in certain ways, but then there are other places where I feel like in our state especially where it's like, why are we doing this?
Right.
So, but there's some other stuff here that says, Princess Diana and Marilyn Monroe, 2 women who changed the world in different ways but who were murdered for the same reason, having evidence that committed the government and royalty in crimes of corruption and child sex trafficking. The world wasn't ready for them. Now, that's an interesting take. And also, speaking of Princess Diana, Prince Harry, I think, is that his name? Or
it depends on what we're talking about.
The one who was involved in the Epstein stuff. I can't remember if it was...
Oh, I literally just watched it this morning.
Yeah, I know, that's what... I want to say it's Prince Harry, but I'm not 100%. But he had a picture taken of him with one of Epstein's victims. And he still got on a live interview within the last year or two and tried to say that he didn't know where that picture came from. He has no recollection of it being taken.
So he's trying to say he's drugged.
I don't know. Dude, that's your fucking face. That's her fucking face.
Yeah.
That's the picture. The lady in the back is a lady she said that coerced her into the Jeffrey Epstein shit. It's all it's all right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all right there.
Yeah.
And then he just sat there and fucking lied and made himself look worse. So,
yeah.
I don't know. All of that shit's crazy.
Yeah.
All of Black Lives Matter stuff is crazy.
I'm just waiting for 2020 to see what it brings us, because we're only in June. So, yeah, we're recording this on June 1st. Literally, it's June 1st and all this is going on. And it is absolutely crazy.
The world has been in unrest since January.
Yes, and it... Oof. But...
I know, dude.
I was trying to find it on my phone. The other TikTok I wanted to mention that I showed you earlier about going to a movie theater and watching a movie about 2020.
Yes.
I don't remember if I sent it to you on Snapchat or...
You sent it to me through text.
Haha, perfect. Okay.
So let me see. Yeah, right here.
Doesn't say who is it by.
Oh, no, that wasn't it. Whoa. Wait, maybe you did send it to me through on Snapchat. You did. The other one you sent it through me on text. Let me see. I don't know if I liked it or not.
Oh, wait, I found it. Nope. This is a shame. I swore I liked it.
Finally, we can't fuck a cop car.
But basically, it was this TikTok video. If I describe this and it sounds familiar to someone, please let it, comment it or something to give credit to this person, because it was a really good video.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically, he was sitting down and he was supposed to be in a movie theater saying, "Oh, I've been waiting for this movie about 2020 to come out. Let's watch it." And he sits down and it goes dark, and then it has you tilt the phone sideways,
mm-hmm.
and it shows scenes of the rioting,
mm-hmm.
and then it shows
coronavirus.
Talks about
Kobe Bryant
and stuff like that, and then how we're still America and we're still being strong,
mm-hmm.
and how we're fighting through this together. And it was just it was really moving,
mm-hmm.
and put things in perspective, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to think that actually will be something.
Yeah, these are textbook moments that our kids are going to be learning about.
Yeah.
We're living through the history right now.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, it's unnerving, but it's also kind of fascinating at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But very crazy and unnerving, mostly.
Yeah. It's very unnerving. You know how many times I've joked about moving to Canada, but at this point I'm like, it might be an option.
Yeah, literally.
That's just how it is right now.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
I think that's
pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's how it is right now.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It just, poof, like that. Coronavirus is gone. Just
Yeah.
a basic flu again.
Yeah. We're halfway through 2020, and all we have is riots, vandalism, no control, war, and that's where we are.